game feature that is very foreign to the console community since Borderlands' inception has been community save files or other players' save files. Now, to give a little recap on the people in the community that might not know about what a save file is, basically you're able to give all your items, character level, character stats to another person just by simply uploading your save file on PC and giving it to another player. You may have seen this many different times on my personal channel when I posted FLAK builds. I would give people save files so they can just drag my build into their computer and have everything that I had as a basically mirror copy of a build. So in today's video, I do want to talk about the subject of how save files in the Borderlands community and in Borderlands in general is a lot more damaging than what people may initially think. Now, I do want to mention there is no pre-existing hatred or bias on my part for, oh, I hate save files, because I've done it myself and I didn't really see the flaw in it at the time. I was like, yeah, I'm helping other players getting their gear, and you know, a lot of people, they work 9-to-5s, the 9-to-5 mothers, and 9-to-5 fathers, people like that. I fully understand. You don't have the time to do what all these YouTubers are doing, and the fact that a YouTuber can provide you with a build that otherwise you probably would never have gotten so you could enjoy the game yourself, I think is really awesome, and I love that aspect of it, and that's what really drove me to do it myself to other people in the community. But the biggest issue with this is when you refer to the complaints from the majority of Borderlands players, and that has always been the longevity of these Borderlands titles. I mean, if you even look at the content Borderlands offers in today's day and age, it's simply replaying the game. It's just repeating the same exact story over and over again, and if you want to compare Wonderlands to Borderlands, you can, but at the end of the day, Wonderlands was the same thing. You're doing the same exact thing over and over and over again, and a lot of games have that endgame loop to where you're doing the same content, but they keep it fresh. For example, Destiny 2, I know may not be a great example at this current moment in time, but at least they kept players engaged through various means, even if it was PvP, Gambit, different modes, other Nightfalls, Nightwave, missions, you had the whole 9 yards, raids, events with exclusive gear that only come around with that, and a little bit of FOMO is a good thing. I want to also mention that FOMO I don't enjoy in video games, but it's also a good thing because it allows players to grind towards something and brings back your player base to be like, yo, this Borderlands event only lasts 2 weeks. I need to go farm this. But the issue is when Borderlands tried to do FOMO events, they had ridiculous drop rates like the gas call from Captain Hans. That's a great example that I can compare it to. But if you did something along the lines of Warframe or even Destiny, and I'm not comparing it because I want Borderlands to be like them, I just want Borderlands to catch up to this day and age of gaming to where there is a failsafe for players. So instead of only fighting the 2.5% drop chance for a event only item, you also have a safety net to where if you kill the event boss 28 times, for example, you get to pick one of its legendary drops, and I think things like that would just make for a more enjoyable endgame experience. But before I sway too far away from that, let's go back to the topic of save files. And when we were talking about the longevity of the Borderlands games, we always complain that there isn't anything to do. I have all my gear, I do the same old content over and over, what do I really do? And a large part of this is in parts due to these community save files. Because when we do have these save files, a lot of players, why would I go through the hassle of restarting an entire character when I could go click on a YouTuber's video and just do it that way? It kills the longevity of these games, and it kills the loot chase, because you don't know a month or two into a new Borderlands game if somebody legitly farmed for that item or if they just save edited. And that's another topic I might touch on a little bit, but when it comes to Borderlands, there is no enjoyment in loot chase. There's no people that where it's like, wow, you got this weapon, so you had to have done this. Good job, dude. It's the equivalent in Destiny 2 of somebody getting a Galahorn and you ask them, where'd you get that, bro? And they're like, yeah, I just downloaded a Cactus's save file, you know? It kills the loot chase and kills the enjoyment for the game. And it's even worse that it's gatekept by a platform. So it's not only annoying to the Borderlands community, but it also intervenes with the console community, because then console players get modded items, and then online mode is just completely terrible. Everyone running around with invincibility shields, grenades that one-tap everything, and it makes the game not enjoyable. So one little thing when it comes to the save files, not only that, but the amount of save editing you could do within these save files kills the game more than it helps it. And I know I'm going to get some backlash for this, but I don't care. It's not something I wanted to talk about, but I feel like going into the next Borderlands game, or maybe if people are listening enough, this can maybe be addressed, because Borderlands, I enjoy the loot chase. I want to be able to get online online and tell my buddy, yo, I got the Hive rocket launcher that's been in the Borderlands series for a long time. And he's like, yo, where did you farm that? And I'm like, yeah, I killed this boss for the Mario Easter egg, you know, something along those lines. I don't just log on and have a full modded character, and it kills the fun. And now the argument would be, well, Term, if you don't like save editing and you don't like save files, simply don't use them. Problem solved, right? No, because I don't care about my personal experience with the game. I'll play the game how I want to play the game. That's just a give me. That's how I'm going to play Borderlands. I care about the series' health as a whole. I want the Borderlands series to thrive. I want the Borderlands series to have the longevity to compete with these other games and actually be a fun experience in the long term. Because I feel like when the life cycle of Borderlands is over, all you really got to do is replay the game, and that's really it. And it gets very old very quick. Yes, there's some nostalgia trips you could do with it, but at the end of the day, it's the same thing over and over. There's no leaderboards for you to compete with. There's no people online you could play with due to the amount of modding in the game, where it just makes the online experience borderline unbearable and laggy for the console community. Cross save was a cool idea. Once again, you have modders on PC ruining that for the console players as well, and they really have no way to play with maybe other console players, but what's the point of crossplay if they don't want to play with the modders in the first place? I feel like you would address the modders to solve that issue in its infancy, but I don't know. I'm not a dev. I don't know how hard it is to implement little things like this, or maybe they're not even little things. Maybe these are big changes to move the save files away from the player. And I know that's going to be very, very heartbreaking to hear, and I have so many hate comments when I refer to this subject where I'm like, you know, I prefer save files to be on a server, and that's because, if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm referring to games like Destiny, games like Warframe, games like The Division, where your save file is on a server and you can't modify it. You can't spawn in looted gear, you can't level up your items, you can't get god rolls, you can't get modded items and drop them for everybody. All this would do is make it so when you get a legendary or when you get rewarded for the content you're playing, you actually feel like you accomplished something. And we all feel like that in Borderlands. Even when the game first came out, we got a new legendary, we share it on Twitter, we tell our friends, we're like, yo, this gun's really cool, I want to try it out. But when a new Borderlands game comes out, your big Borderlands YouTubers know everything, and there's been Borderlands YouTubers that spawn in shit. I'm not gonna say their names, but they have spawned in items and they cover it that way, and they're like, I don't know where this drops, and it doesn't make a great creator atmosphere, and it doesn't create a great gaming atmosphere when people could simply cheat in things. But Term, what about those 9-to-5 players? What about those people that don't have the time? These people that have lives and they don't sit on one game all the time and they have kids. How do you accommodate for that? And that is very, very simple. Remember that EchoCast extension on Borderlands 3 that everyone yelled about when people did the red chest farms and everyone said too much loot to the community is a bad thing? Well, bring that back. Bring back ways for Borderlands players to earn loot outside of Borderlands itself. I will say that again. Bring back ways for Borderlands players to earn loot outside of the game itself. The VIP thing that Borderlands 3 had, great example. Do little stuff like that where people can be on their lunch break and just log into Twitter and stuff and earn free loot. Do the EchoCast where you could watch your favorite Borderlands streamer, and when they get a legit legendary, you share that legit excitement when your name is called and you get that same exact legendary donated to your character. It seems like such a $1 million idea in my eyes, and I feel like it's so cool that you could share that awesome experience with a streamer, because nowadays, especially with the drop rates of Borderlands 3, a streamer gets, let's say, a random legendary and you know it's bad, and you guys are just like, yes, another legendary that we all seen before. And that's another thing. Legendaries dropped like candy in Borderlands 3, and I covered this many different times, but when you have a game where legendaries don't become legendary, the loot chase is very stagnant and boring. And I mainly say that because Borderlands 3 really had no loot chase. The loot chase was anointments on the legendaries that were already dropping like candy in the first place. So what did you really get excited for other than right parts on the legendary? You didn't get starstruck when a legendary dropped. You got starstruck when it had the fire elements and it had the right anointment, and you didn't have to re-roll it at the Crazy Earl's reroll. But there's many other ways you can implement community-driven reactions and make it more legit, because I feel like I know people love modding, and modding is a large part of the Borderlands community. But I want to ask you this question. Would you rather have modding in the Borderlands community because the game died 2 months into the release? Or would you rather have a Borderlands game thriving and filled with so much content that modding isn't even needed? Modding is a secondary thought because you don't need to mod if the game's already enjoyable. You don't see people on Warframe and Warframe players or Destiny players saying, man, I wish I could do a modded run or use mods. No, because there's already so much to do within those games that you don't need the mods. And I do think mods should still be supported, but offline only, for the love of Jesus. Only offline only mods. I feel like there's no harm or no foul in the content creation space if you're doing offline only mods. Borderlands creators that post about mods don't even play with other people or their viewers anyway, so it's really not that big of a deal if it's offline only, and it's pretty simple. You just switch to offline only, use the modded stuff, and those saves can't be ported to the online characters. And I think that is a great way of doing things, because if you think about it, you still get the benefits of the modded community, you still get the enjoyment for the modders, for people to play their mods, so you're not shooting any Borderlands modders in the foot. All you're doing is making it so the player base is not intoxicated by the modders, and their gameplay experience isn't ruined by the modders. Now, this isn't a video shitting on modders, because I fully respect them, and it's the reason why I still play Borderlands 2 to this day, but if you completely ignore that modders don't have a negative impact, you're simply just looking at the wrong thing, because modders, in their own ways, and modifying Borderlands as a whole has its negative impacts on the Borderlands community. But that was just a few of the things I wanted to cover, because I feel like I needed to get it off my chest, because we could make the most awesome Borderlands game ever with the best endgame we've ever seen, but if multiplayer is so plagued by constant people modding the game and ruining the experience, and a bunch of people just spawning things in, completely soiling the loot chase within the Borderlands series, why even bother making a loot chase to begin with if you're not going to feel rewarded for it? But that's just my honest opinion, guys. I wanted to bring back this series in its entirety, knowing that I want to start posting more Borderlands content and being more consistent with my Borderlands content, because New World is I'm loving New World, don't get me wrong, but Borderlands is my home, and I feel like I've been abandoning Borderlands content. I want to come here, give you guys some thoughts on how I'm feeling about the game as a whole right now. And right now, I'm just going to start covering some things that I feel like needs to be addressed in the next Borderlands game. If you guys want to have your comment featured or just be in a video, comment down below what you think needs to be addressed in the next Borderlands title, and you may just see yourself in a future video. But anyway, guys, hope you guys have a terrific day, stay safe, and I'll see you all later.